So you're looking at the Zte Axon M. This phone was released in the United States last November, and now in February, it's finally hitting the market in its native China and also in Japan. So looking at the front of this device, this looks very boring, right? You have a 5.2-inch 1080p display that's only LCD, so it's not an OLED panel. The bezels on top and bottom of the screens are huge by 2018 standards. And even the specs are a little bit boring. You have a Snapdragon 821 inside, which is 2 years old now, and 4 gigs of RAM. 4 gigs of RAM is actually enough for a smartphone, but in 2018, every phone is coming out with 6 or 8 gigs of RAM. So what makes this phone special then? It's this. This is not a generic glass plate. Instead, this is a second screen. So this is a phone with 2 screens. So that means you can open 2 apps side by side, such as Facebook and Instagram. So if you really like your social media, this might be cool to use. And that's not it. You can even open YouTube and play games at the same time. So it's very cool to be able to run something heavy such as a racing game and watch videos without performance issues. So that's one way to use the 2 screens. There's also a couple other ways. Another way is stretch mode. This effectively pulls one display over 2 screens, so now you have kind of like a 9-inch, 10-inch display basically. So this is obviously pretty fun for web surfing. You have more space to read, more screen to browse, especially when you open a reading app like Pocket. So now reading text, it's a lot easier, reading novels and stuff. This hinge right here in the middle cuts off the screen and can be a little bit distracting, but I got used to it after a couple of days. For text, for photos, such as when I'm trying to watch Instagram stories, I never got used to it. It's quite annoying to see this bar that runs across something that's supposed to be immersive. But very impressive. You can even play games over stretch across 2 screens, but not all the games work. So Breakneck, this racing game here, works fine. But when you play poker, Zynga Poker, it actually cuts off a little bit of the poker table, so you can't play all games across 2 screens. So now the third way to use the 2 displays, it's mirror mode. So this way, it's meant for use like this. So you can, in theory, open YouTube. If you want to show your friends a YouTube video, then you can put it on the table like that, and your friend can sit across from you and watch the YouTube video, watch the exact same video. Or if you play a game like Battleship, then you can't, your friends won't be able to see your screen and you won't be able to see your friend's screen. You guys can strategize and play games against each other. So with such an innovative design, there has to be a little bit of compromises. So first of all, it's the camera. There's only one camera on this phone. It's a 20 megapixel shooter. So if only one camera, ZTE relies on some awkward software tricks to use the same camera for both normal photo taking and also selfie. So when you go into camera mode, when you're taking selfies, it's fine because the camera's facing you. But if you want to take a normal photo, then you have to hit the button and then you have to turn the phone around to take a photo. And then if you're in this mode and you back out of the camera app, all of a sudden you're like, wait, what happened to the screen? That's because you have to flip the phone back to use the phone like this. This is how the phone is normally used. So the other problem is, since this is a screen, that means when you fold the phone in normal mode, the back of the phone, the screen is exposed and your finger's always pressing against it, so it's gonna get very a lot of fingerprints and oil and grease on it. And on top of that, if you put this phone on a table or any other surface, it's gonna risk scratching the screen. And you can't put a case over this phone, because if you put a case, then you can't open up the phone. So the only solution is to get a tempered glass screen protector for this phone. And I'm not sure there are a lot of screen protectors available for a phone that's relatively obscure. It's not like an iPhone where you can go into any store and there will be screen protectors. And finally, ZTE had to optimize the software itself, because Google obviously didn't design the software to be run on 2 screens. So as such, it's a little bit buggy. It's a little bit slow sometimes. Like when you turn orientation, it takes like about a second. There's like a visible lag before the screen will rotate. And sometimes, as mentioned, when I've tried to play some games, it cuts off the screen. And also sometimes apps will crash when I'm having it stretched across 2 screens. The camera is also just okay. It's kind of mediocre. So Dynamic range is pretty poor, so there's not a lot of details in the photo, not a lot of saturation. It's really slow to focus too. Like, look at how blurry this picture came out, and I took this photo about 7 inches across from this setting right here. So the camera, it's mediocre by 2018 standards. So overall, I really admire what ZTE is doing. I think a phone with 2 screens that can run 2 apps side by side is very useful for someone like me who it's productivity driven. So I can have Gmail open right here and have WhatsApp right here, so I can talk to my colleagues and check my email. So that's very useful. But unfortunately, right now, this phone has too many compromises. So maybe in another year or two, maybe this is a Gen 1 device, maybe the 2nd generation or the 3rd generation will improve on the display technology, have faster software so it doesn't lag as much, and just have a better camera too. Maybe they can even reduce this hinge right here, because right now the hinge is a little bit distracting when you're in full screen mode. So this is the ZTE Axon M.